today's meeting of the Salina City Commission to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Here. If you're able, would you please stand, and we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Awards and proclamations, I believe we have none. Citizens Forum. If there's anyone that would like to address the Commission on any matter of business not on the agenda today, you're free to come to the podium and offer your thoughts to the Commission. There being none, we'll move to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time. 5.1.
Item 5.1, comments on proposed 2019 budget.
Is there staff comments about this item, or are we just on our own here to?
No, Commissioners, what we're going to actually change the language there. From this point on up until we actually have the formal budget public hearing, we just want to make sure that anyone who sees the agenda knows that they have the opportunity, if they have a budget request, a budget thought, that they have the opportunity to come up and let you know that.
Okay. So we'll open it up to the floor and the public. Does anybody have any comments on our proposed 2019 budget? Any remarks from the commissioners up here of what we've heard so far? There being none, we'll close that item and move on to 5.2.
Item 5.2, public hearings to consider adoption of resolution numbers 18-7570 through 18-7577, providing for repair or removal of designated dangerous structures and establishing a reasonable time within which the repair or removal of such structures shall commence and be completed.
Ms. Driscoll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, you'll see you've received a binder at your place, and that has an individualized report and pictures for each of the properties that we'll go over today. First of all, just for folks in attendance and for yourselves, I wanted to go over just kind of the general process and how we got here, and then we'll take each one of these as individual addresses. Rick, if you could go. So this definition actually really helps to understand what is a dangerous structure, because a lot of people kind of have their own opinion or thoughts on what that is. And a dangerous structure is one that is found to be dangerous to the life, health, property, or safety of the public or the occupants of the structure by not providing minimum safeguards to protect or warn occupants in the event of fire, or because such structure contains dangerous equipment or so damaged, decayed, dilapidated, structurally dangerous, or of such faulty construction or unstable foundation that partial or complete collapse is possible. So there's a lot of things within that. Within our city code, we list several things that would then further define what a dangerous structure is, but I like to remind folks that it's just one of these, not several, not three. Just one of these qualifies as a dangerous structure, and with that then kicks in the state statute and local code that talks about how we enforce on that. Rick, if you could just click over to the next one, and I'm not going to read each one of these verbatim, but we're going to see examples of those in the addresses, but it speaks to everything from of course electrical, fire hazards, to water damage, mold, toxic materials, and even things like means of egress that do not conform to buildings or fire codes. Building or egresses that have been blocked and aren't available, things like that can even affect the structural integrity of a building. Fire resistant rated construction, a variety of different things. Next. So I think this is an important slide. So what is a dangerous structure? We just talked about all these things that qualify them, but a lot of people think of it as just a home. But it's not just homes. It's not just multifamily. It's not just commercial. All those different types of structures And the second bullet is all buildings are structures, not all structures are buildings. So when we speak of dangerous structures, we're of course talking about buildings, but then in certain cases we haven't had major wind storm or incident here in a long time, but if a tornado came through and we had cell towers that were then dangerous, those are dangerous structures and could be dealt with through this process. So it's not necessarily just buildings, and it's can include commercial. And we actually have one commercial property today that we're going to touch on. So this is through state statute. We have this power as a municipality to deal with these types of dangerous structures. The enforcing officer is our building official. He's not here today, so you get me. But the building official makes the request to the governing body by a resolution to fix a date for a public hearing. So this is a multi-step process, so nobody should be surprised when this is happening if you're getting notified as a dangerous structure, because on June 4th, we brought a resolution in front of the body, and then it's advertised twice that this is happening and that we've requested a public hearing, which is today. And then a copy of the resolution is mailed to all those individuals starting it's before that first advertising date, trying to give them as much time as possible. It's mailed to the building owner or owners, and then it's also mailed to identified interested parties. And sometimes this is a bank or a lending facility, and sometimes it can be a tenant in a building. So, and we always send one to an address just in case somebody's there, just as double reassurance. So it should be, one of the things that I want to stress is that on average, it's taken us 2 years to get to this point. We strive hard as staff to get voluntary compliance. And you'll see when we look at each address and some of the property history that this isn't the first time that we're talking about this with a property owner. And there have been other things that have led up to this. So, I mean, everything from notices to extensions to compliance agreements to verbal, to visits. I mean, there's a lot going on. So, yes, we try not to get to this point. We like to get everybody into compliance, but sometimes we get to a point and we have to call it that the structure is dangerous. So the public hearing is where we present findings, and that's what we'll go over today. We'll look at some pictures, some of the facts, and the steps that have led up to this on each property. If you, the governing body, find the structures to be unsafe or dangerous, a resolution will be approved, and the structure must be repaired or removed. The premise must be made safe and secure, and the resolution will give a reasonable time for repairs or removal to be completed. Staff typically recommends 2.5 months. The body has the ability to add to that or less than that, so that is to the discretion of the body. So remediation. What happens if the requirements of the resolution are not completed? The property owner can request a show cause hearing before the governing body. So let's say that you gave somebody 2.5 months to do something, and hopefully at a month in they came and discussed this, and not at 2.5 months, but however that is, they can come to the body and request this process. But it's almost like going through the whole dangerous structure process again. It has to be noticed, it has to be advertised, a resolution, then a public hearing to get to the point where you can give them an additional time extension beyond that original amount of time given. If that show cause hearing is not requested, the amount of time, reasonable time given, that the action is not completed in that, then we go forward and repair or remove the structure. We say repair, it rarely ever happens, because usually if we're at this point, most of these houses can't be saved, but statute does allow for that. So in certain cases, if you had something that you did want to repair, that is a possibility. But typically, with dangerous structures, they are then demolished. If you could just go back one more, Rick. Cost, so the notice is given to the owner within 30 days to pay, and if not paid, costs are added to the tax roll. So once we get through all of this and that cost is assessed, the owner is then notified, and they have a 30-day window to just pay that. If they choose not to pay that, then it goes against the property with their taxes, and it is that type of situation. And it is not, to my understanding, like monetized out over several years or something like that, like some of our other issues. Like sidewalks can be abated over 5 years because of state statute. Next, please. So the structures, we're looking at 8 structures today, and they have these common findings, and we'll go into more details per each property, but they are unfit for human habitation, have had place cards placed there and identifying that they're unfit for human habitation, are vacant, do not have active utilities, have been sent by certified mail notifications regarding property conditions and code violations. And that's just the list that we're going to go through. So if you look at the blue sheet, and we're going to kind of just walk right through this binder, and Rick's going to put up everything that's in the binder on the big screen too, so everybody can see it. This information that we're sharing with you right now, when we sent the resolution to the property owners and interested parties, we let them know that they could pick up this information as early as Friday morning. So they could either have it emailed to them, or they could stop at the office and get it picked up, or pick it up themselves, so that they had it prior to this meeting. We don't send these out in the packet typically because we're still trying to verify, you know, is the building still vacant? Because a lot of this has happened over time, so we're doing like final checks as of this morning, just to make sure that when we spoke to you today that the properties are still vacant, that the properties haven't had any repairs done to them over the weekend. Because sometimes people get these notices and they get really excited and they want to go start fixing things. So we try to make sure that we're utterly accurate by the time we get to you guys this Monday, that we've had somebody out there this morning verifying these properties. So with that, if we could start with 924, Rick. And
First
Mr.
of all,
Mayor.
let me ask if any of the commissioners have any questions for Lauren on this.
Of course, I'm sorry.
And the setup and on the procedure we'll have here. So if that's good to move forward, then I'll open the hearing on 924 North 3rd. It's Resolution 1875-70.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. So then we deal with each structure. So we deal with this structure, we hear the staff report, and then we take the action?
I assume that the property owners and the public will want to comment as well, and then we'll take action.
Yep, and for anybody who's looking at the blue sheet, under commission action in the blue sheet, one, we open the hearing for a particular address and resolution, and then we hear the building official's report, then we take public comment, and then we'll close the public hearing, deliberate, take action, and move on to the next address.
So, quick question. So if there was a mortgage on a property, the lender is notified also?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so Rick has up here is this is what we call the building official's request for condemnation. Each property has one of these. They contain the address, legal description, building description, any detached accessory buildings that are part of the property. It also identifies the occupancy, and then the interested parties are listed there. Contents of certified mailings, the property posting dates, taxes and assessments, and then background. And the reason I'm just kind of going over that is you'll be able to find that consistently with each property as you look at these reports, that same basic information. So for 924 North 3rd is the first property we're going to be addressing. And this property was posted on June 12th of 2018. The taxes are current. Background regarding this property, sitting building inspectors performed an inspection specific to the criteria listed in 31502 of Salina's Municipal Code. The provisions of that section, as well as findings of the building official, are provided. And that includes work without a permit. That was dated in 1/24/13. Property owner did not respond to this notice. Then unsecured structure on 6/4/14. Property owner did not respond, and the city abated by boarding up the structure. On July 11th of 2014. On May 16th of 2018, violation notice, dangerous structures, was put forward with no response. With each property, one of the things that we try to do is ask the property owner if we can do an internal inspection. If not, we request a warrant. One of the reasons we do that is a lot of times the issues we've seen are external, but it's unfair to a building owner if there are internal issues that are only compounded by this, and then we come in front of you with dangerous structures, and by the time we get in there, we find that there's even more. At this point, what somebody's getting from us as far as how they make the building safe again includes both the inside and the outside. So there's no hidden things. There shouldn't be things that we would find more of. We've had a good, full assessment of the building. So an interior inspection was performed with an administrative search warrants on 7/10/18. I was notified by our inspector, though, that he did run into the property owner when he was there with the warrant, and she did let him in and was aware that he had entered the building. And then the last part of this is the conclusions and how the building official has determined the structure is unsafe and dangerous. The house has been neglected for many years, and the current condition is completely uninhabitable. Outside facade of the house is severely dilapidated, letting in moisture into the interior structure. And Rick, if you could just start to kind of scroll down into those pictures. I'm going to read these, but it helps when you can see them. The roof has several holes letting in moisture in interior structure. Foundation has cracks and shifting on the northeast and southeast corners. The back entrance is completely deteriorated with no steps, missing or rotten siding, and rotted structure members in the floor and roof. Cellar entrance on the south side is deteriorated to a point of letting in water and being a danger to walk on or use. And the floor and ceilings on the interior is rotted through in many places with mold growth and wood rot throughout the house. So, if you could scroll up to the first picture, Rick. Thank you. Perfect. So this is a front view of the property. As you can see here, does anybody have a laser pointer by chance? So used to Dean always having one. Okay, well, I'm just going to do some good pointing. You'll see on the front of the house is a front porch, and there's some newer beams there. That was the work that was done without a permit back in, I want to say, 2013 and 2014. So that's the work that was done without a permit. If you'll scroll down to the next picture, along where the wall or the siding and the roof are, you can see that there are several holes along there, letting in moisture, animals. Scroll down one more, please. So here's where we start to look at foundation cracks are at several different places. And then if you'll scroll just a little further, you can see the dilapidation of the back porch. This is the rear view of the house. This is kind of, if we had better lighting, you'd see along here and here are where you start to see those cracks in the foundation. So they're really creating a structural issue there along the whole back of the building, not just in one or two isolated spots. And then the last one is the cellar door. This is no longer affixed. Even from a public safety point of view, if you had kids playing around there, I mean, this is the kind of thing somebody can fall into. Keep scrolling just a bit more. Inside, we have serious water damage. This is not a skylight, this is a hole. And this is deep into the walls, deep into the material. We have mold throughout the ceilings, if you just keep scrolling, Rick. So the structural issues are beyond foundation. They're really just down into literally what is keeping this house standing. Okay, I think that's everything we had for this particular property, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions for staff? Is this, is there a specific list of what they would have to address? Although there's a lot here, but if the applicant or the
Yes.
individual would want to remedy this, do they have a specific list to go through?
Yes, they did receive an original violation notice, and it goes over each item that they need to repair. And in this case, it would be very challenging. I mean, beyond materials, water damage, those types of things, we have to remember, like, you've had things that are compromised, electrical, plumbing, a variety of different issues there.
Well, the deed owner for this property is Miss Helen Sims. Is she present? Does she want to address is there anything you'd like?
Mr. Mayor, may I accompany my mother?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Come on up. If you just
here.
give us your names and for the record.
Say your name.
My name is Helen Sims. And this is my daughter, Tammy.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell them for you?
Yeah, let him tell.
My name is Tammy Sims, and that's my sister Elizabeth. Our mother loves her home, and she has hid this from us. I just found out Friday at 6 p.m., and I drove from Oklahoma. And my sister and myself need time. We called a demolition crew today. I've only known over a weekend. We begged her 7 years ago to let us tear it down. She refused. She's continually refused. She loves her home. Her mother gave it to her. And without our name being on anything, it is very legally difficult to do anything. She did not tell us. When I found out, I called my sister, who lives in town, who she most of the time goes and stays at her house, did not even so much as tell her there was one notice until I called. And I got a call from a cousin who she had told about all this, and we don't know why they didn't tell us. My mother was afraid we would get upset and we would tear the house down. We're here. So all we're requesting, my mother agrees finally, it needs to be demolished, right?
Yes.
She agrees it needs to be condemned finally, and we would just like time to get loans, because it's not our property. This is a little difficult, only having a weekend. Correct, Liz? Yes. I'm sorry, I'm upset. I'm just angry, actually. A lot of things, because this shouldn't have come to this point, and someone should have, you guys tried, but I mean family that actually knew about it, extended family, that were helping her hide it from us. I don't understand, so.
Well, I appreciate your distress. The staff is recommending a commencement date of August 1st, but you've got a completion date of August 15th. So you have a couple months, 3 months there to
3
to
months
work
would
that
be
out.
adequate, if that's possible, because I live out of state, and I have got to get either a loan on my 401K or my sister.
October 15th?
October, not August. Yeah.
October, yeah, I was thinking August, and I'm going, 3 months. But, yeah, that would be great. And you're okay with that, Mother?
Yes.
Because legally, we can't even touch it without her permission. And she was adamant not to even so much as go in it. I mean, for 7 years, I haven't been allowed around it, so.
Just one question on technicality. The date to commence is August 1st. I'm assuming you're going to go through with the full demolition. Can the commencement date be softened? I don't know if 2.5 weeks is enough time. I never
I don't
saw one of
think
those.
so with me living out of town. I did call a company today and met them at 7 o'clock this morning, but they told me the utilities are still running to the house. I tried to get them removed, but one day, I've been here 1 day, it's really hard. I got 2 of them to remove the stuff so it can be demoed, but they won't even give me a quote to demo until that stuff is removed.
Does commence date mean initiating the paperwork or the actual physically working on the house?
Yeah, I was going to ask Lauren that same question, how they look at that, if it's a physical demolition or if it's actually doing the pre-work and whatever it takes to actually set that up.
I think it's doing the pre-work and getting that set up in this situation. I mean, we would view like commencement having started if you had quotes from reputable builders, you were starting to pull permits, or you were requesting, your demo permit. Part of the commencement date is ensuring that somebody started this stuff, because none of it can get fixed overnight. And so what we don't want to do is set up a situation in which somebody's waiting till the night before, the requirement to be completed, and suddenly going, oh, I didn't realize how much time it was going to take to get started. So these things need to get moving.
Commissioners, the other thing is that we recognize there are a lot of activities associated with getting ready to do something like this, and there are a lot of people involved, quite honestly, when you do that. And part of it's just keeping in communication with development services so that they understand where you're at. If you're having a problem that you need to get over, let them know what it is so that they know that you're still working towards it. I think that we call it the diligent prosecution of it, if I remember the phrase right, and it's taking all the steps to keep moving and just keeping them informed of that.
Yep. And I'm guessing there's certain steps, and you have to use somebody that's licensed to do the demolition. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to building services, but I think they could kind of help walk you through that.
I have a card of someone I've already talked to today.
Okay, because I know they'd be glad to help you, and I know it's a
And I have
little...
talked to Sue Klein.
Okay. See Sue over there. That's who you need? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, because I know they'd be glad to help you out. I know it's a tough
It's just,
situation.
it's not
We'd
my
like to-
home.
Yeah.
Legally, it's
I know.
not my home. It's not my sister's home. And our mother just now, as of Saturday, agreed to cooperate with us, so.
One question, the way you worded something. Are the utilities
Well,
active or just connect? Because if they're active, I was going to ask, is there
They're
someone
not-
living in there?
I do not believe they're active, as in, like the water. They shut it off at the meter. She was under the impression
They're
that,
supposed to turn it, oh, I disconnected it.
she was under the impression that it didn't have water service anymore, but she's been paying a water bill every month anyway. So I told her there's a difference between canceling it and having meters removed and everything that, that she doesn't understand the difference, correct?
Yeah.
And same thing with electricity. There are lines running to it, live lines. I talked to them today. They said that has to be removed. I got that scheduled for tomorrow. This is difficult. I just don't, I'm doing everything I can to fix it. And, it's got power right now to it, but as of tomorrow, according to the electric company, it won't have. And the gas company, the engineer is supposed to call me back. He hasn't called back yet, but it's only been one day. So, and the water, I have to go down there. I believe it's here because they didn't know how to do it at all, the girl I talked to. So I got to find out what's the deal there and see if you remove meters. I don't know.
Yeah, because I had water disconnected, though.
I know.
Yeah, everything.
I think you understand diligence is the key, and that just keep moving forward and keep in contact with building services. And
So you think October the 15th is sufficient time?
Yes, sir. And I would request that, because I took my mother to change address, go to the post office, to the Social Security office, everywhere. I got all of her, because she's finally agreed to let us help her. Changed everything. From now on, any correspondence to her has to go to my sister who lives here in town. Otherwise, there is a chance if she changes her mind, we will not know. And she may end up worse off, believe it or not, than she already is. So,
Just to be, she's not still living in the house, is she?
no. We kind of,
That
this
was a-
weekend, told her she will never be there again, ever, for anything.
I do think it's important that you also talk with your mom, though, about notices on the property and things like that, because we keep placarding it, and
They keep
they're
us-
consistently removed.
They were gone today when I went there, so, yeah.
And yeah. So, and Sue's got your contact information, so we'll get with you guys on
And-
additional addresses, so we make sure that those notices are done like that.
Yeah, and we will keep in touch with her to update her on everything. And again, we apologize. It's been 15 years since I've even been in that house, and 7 years since my sister, myself, begged her to let us tear it down then, when we had enough money to do it easily.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
No reason to apologize. We
Well,
regret
no,
that you're
it's,
in this circumstance.
we're
but-
aware of this house being that way. I don't want you to think we allowed that. We didn't. It's just not our property. And it means so much to her when an elderly person loves something and don't understand the implications of their actions. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it if your name is not on the property.
That makes things tough for us up here, too.
Yeah, well, we understand your position and we agree with it.
Thank
Well,
you very much.
Thank
And,
you.
and one,
questions?
well, I just wanted to say, and thank you so much, both of you, for being proactive to remedy the situation once you were aware of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
We found out
it's a tou-
Friday.
It's a tough transition as, when a child becomes a parent, and Many of us have been through that up here, and thank you very much
Thank you.
for being so willing to comply.
And we'll get with Sue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that'd like to comment on this item? If not, we'll bring it back up here for action. Is there further deliberation or action from the commission?
Mayor, I move we approve resolution number 18-7570, finding that the structure at 924 North 3rd Street is unsafe or dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. I maybe failed to say we closed the public hearing, but we'll now open the public hearing on 1819 North 5th. That's Resolution 1875-71.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is addressed as 1819 North 5th. It is a single-family dwelling. There are multiple detached accessory structures on this property. It is littered with junk and debris, including old buildings, vehicles, campers, tires, and illegally dumped trash. I will say that I've never seen quite like this. It is a very large property. I'm looking at our notes. There isn't an aerial for some reason, but it's a large piece of property. And as we go through some of the background, you're going to note fire issues that have been here, and one of the issues with debris. Oh, good. Thank you. It is this one. It's this property.
Sure it was.
Exactly, right? So here's the main structure. You can actually see the variety of vehicles and campers here from the aerial, and you can see where the river is being used as a dumping station for many of these things. Rick, can you zoom out at all on that, or is there an aerial that goes a little bit further out?
You mean closer or how?
No, check the other one. Yeah, thank you. So you can see this is a fairly large parcel with kind of an odd configuration. So there, if as you're looking at the pictures going, how did this all happen on one piece of property? It's a large piece of property. If you can go back to the request for condemnation report, Rick. Thank you. So background on this property has had multiple code violations in recent years. The property owner lives out of state and has not been responsive to our attempt to give voluntary compliance. It's staff's understanding that the original owners quitclaimed this to an out-of-state relative who had little to say on that, and it doesn't know what to do and has basically chosen to not be active in this issue. Starting as early as 2014, we have notices for trash and debris, continuing with inoperable vehicles. We have people living in the house without utilities, notice for people living in the house with no utilities, both in 2015, 2016. In 2016, we have trash and debris violations. In 2018, violation notice for unsecured structure, which had to be abated by the city, and then violation notice for fire damaged structure. And you can see in the pictures, if you scroll down, Rick, and I'm just going to kind of talk about the conclusions as we look at some of these. So here you can see is where they had fire damage, and one of the abatement issues that we had to take was actually to secure this up because people were going in and out of the house. We have paid to remove those campers that you will see in some of these pictures and in previous violations several times. They get picked back up again and moved back out there. It is a reoccurring problem property. These are just collapsed buildings and junk left on the property. fire has destroyed multiple areas of the structural floor and roof supports of the house. The house and surrounding property have been vacant for a few years and neglected for some time, and has a high traffic of squatters, illegal dumping, and that's how the fire occurred. The amount of material here creates an even greater fire damage because once the fire starts, there's just plenty of material for it to keep going with. In addition to the damage from the main structure by the fire, one outbuilding has collapsed and others are missing their roofs and are structurally unsound. The entire property is an attractive nuisance and barriers need to be installed at both the entrance to prevent future illegal dumping but allow for mowing and maintenance. Just gives you some of the ideas of the debris and stuff here in the river. Do we have any more pictures, Rick, or is that the... Yeah. Can you scroll up just a little bit more, Rick? I want to point out the vehicles. Yeah, so here's an example. I mean, we have more campers, more cars. I mean, you can see, in some of the cases where we look at some of these houses, clearly nobody's living there. They are dangerous if somebody were to wander into them, and we wouldn't want somebody living in them. But here we have a problem with squatters, and it's whether we're condemning this or not, like, as the property remains the way it is, it just becomes more dangerous. I think that's everything staff has.
Thank you. Is there anybody to represent the property owners on this item? If not, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Wouldn't want to be the neighbors. We'll bring it back up here for discussion or action.
When we're looking at the structures and cleaning this property up, are we also looking at removing all the debris, the cars, everything, basically?
Yeah,
would be part of a...
In this particular case, this one's, I mean, honestly, it's going to be expensive, but it's a big problem. And the thing is, if we don't remove the debris, and we don't remove these other things, and we don't put in the barricades, it's going to continue happening. And we have that evidence here through these other violations where we've tried to get voluntary compliance, we've tried to clean it up, and it just keeps continuing. It's just kind of a breeding environment for this behavior.
And that's something I was going to ask about. Is the property then fenced off after it's, if we have to abate the nuisance, is the property then fenced? And the city would not own the property at that point. So how do we keep it from recurring?
Yep, what we're talking about is gating those entrance points because it's a lot harder to drag vehicles in there and motor homes and things like that when those are gated off entrances. And we could probably do those at right away. We've done this in the past. I haven't been part of that process, but we would work with law to make sure that we'd be working within our purview of control. But there's finding a way to stop that traffic from going in and out of there. Fencing, I don't know if we could do that exactly, if somebody's willing to drag stuff in there. But, I mean, realistically, it's a hideout spot for those kinds of activities. So if we can stop the big vehicles from getting in there, that would be a really good starting point.
October 15th seems an awfully long way away for this particular property. And given the fact that there hasn't been any response from the current owner that received it via the quick claim deed, and I don't even know how exactly that works, but would this be an instance that we stick to whatever the statutory minimum is and maybe tighten that deadline up? I mean, to me, the 75 days or whatever seems like a good option to give to people who are going to take ownership of a problem and debate it however that looks. But, if we haven't received a response, and when I look at the mess there and the potential for more fires, more chances of fire department, law enforcement being called out to deal with something on that, I'd like to see it gone, as soon as we could have it gone. And I don't know if anybody else would support moving that up to, say, a September 1st deadline, if that's within the statutory requirements, but I would certainly like to see it a lot sooner than October 15th.
If the commencement date is not met, can action proceed, or do you have to wait until the completion date?
I don't know, that's actually, I'd ask Greg that question. If commencement hasn't begun by the commencement date given, what would be our course of enforcement?
It's my understanding we're in a position to proceed
Okay.
under the circumstance.
Well, staff, city has its own problems in arranging the work. Is that, do you need until October to?
Well, I don't think that October deadline would apply to us. So, and typically the way we've done these in the past when we bring a grouping like this to you is we try to, that's one of the reasons we kind of time everything on those same 2.5-month timelines, is when we go out to contract those demolitions, we try and do them in a grouping and get a better price from, through one contract. But if that's not possible, then we have other means to go and get that secured. But we have an abatement contract for all of our daily abatement work. But if a job's big enough, we try to actually put it out to bid because of that level. So something like this, even if it was standalone, we would probably go out to bid for a job this big.
So your recommendation would be to keep those same dates as presented, the August 1st and the October 15th then?
I'm comfortable with these dates, and I think that you make a very good point on that commencement date, and staff will keep a very close eye on that, and if no action is taken, we can take other steps to further that process.
Mayor, if I may, a question for Ms. Driscoll. Am I correct? We would anticipate that this would come back before the commission before any remedial effort or any undertaking by the city would commence. So it comes back to you is my point.
Well, I would think we would just need to verify if that commencement date had passed and no commencement had taken place. I would probably verify with you, what is our best method? Is it a resolution, or how is that we come back in front of the body to let you know that that hasn't happened and that we would like to proceed sooner than that completion date?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the public hearing on this item's closed. Is there any action to take?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve resolution number 18-7571, finding that the structures at 1819 North 5th Street are unsafe or dangerous, directing that structures be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st for commencement within which the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15th within which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. We'll move on to 2410 North 9th. It's Resolution 187572.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is a commercial use storage building located at 2410 North 9th, and it is vacant. There is some materials from storage tenants in there, but we've been working with them and the owner to get those items removed because we're trying to get everybody from not going in and out of the building, hence its structural safety issues. Background, the city building inspectors performed an inspection as per city code, and this property's been kind of hidden back, so it doesn't have the same kind of lengthy background that many of our other buildings do, but you'll see from the pictures why this is just what it is, and that kind of leads back to that earlier presentation I gave. We don't have to have a certain amount of time or lots of things that we did. Like, sometimes you just have to call these dangerous structures when you see them, and this is one of them. So January 24th, 2018, violation notice was sent. On May 16th, 2018, violation notice was sent. If you could scroll down to the pictures. So you can see there's a massive hole in the roof right here. And this commercial building is used for storage and has deteriorated to very poor health and has dangerous conditions. The roof is decayed beyond repair and is at a point of collapsing. and then the side walls are deteriorated and shifting and forming cracks that affect structural stability. So here you can actually see where the walls are starting to separate, and they shifted and they're leaning. So like I said, the tenants have been working to remove their materials. They're not leasing this to anybody new, and the building owners are aware of the issue. That's all I got.
Any questions for staff? We'll offer the floor to the building owner. We have Crane Rental Employees Investment Group, LLC, listed as the property deed owners. Anyone here for comment? Anyone here from the public like to comment on this item? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and bring this back up here for action. Further deliberation, commissioners, or is there action to take?
Action, Mr. Mayor. Move approve resolution number 18-7522.
7-2.
I'm sorry, I knew that didn't look right. 7572. Thank you. Finding that the structure at 2410 North 9th Street is unsafe or dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st, 2018, within which the repair removal shall commence, and a date of October 15, 2018, within which the repair removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. We'll move on to 245 Baker, Resolution 1875-73.
Okay, this is a single-family dwelling at 245 Baker. It is currently vacant, and the property shows no delinquent taxes for 2015 and 2016. Oh, I'm sorry, the Saline County records show delinquent taxes for 2015 and 2016, and the taxes for 2017 are due but not delinquent. Background on this property: the property has been damaged by two separate instances of trees falling on the house. The first tree damaged roof rafters and the front porch. The second larger tree fell and hit the center of the roof, collapsing the entire roof into the structure and substantially damaging all of the walls. Since the second tree has fallen, these separate violation notices have been sent to the property owner in August of 2016, October of 2016, July of 2017. None of these notices resulted in any action by the property owner to correct the matter. And I can speak personally to the fact that staff worked quite arduously to reach out to the property owner, to find them, notify them, because they have moved, or one of the interested property owners had moved to a different city. We tried to find them, did find them. We had conversations that they were going to come into an agreement, they were going to move on this, and still nothing. So at this point, this house is dangerous. It's by a school, and we felt it was necessary and did notify them that we were moving it onto the dangerous structures list. The City of Salina has baited the property on many separate occasions, including removal of the large tree, boarding up the property, installing protective fencing around the damaged structure. In addition, the city has abated the property for tall grass and weeds most of this year. And, you know, we had to put fencing out there because of the kids' concerns being so close to the school. This does remain a substantial hazard, particularly, again, because of that school. If we can start with that first picture, Rick. That's perfect, thank you. That is a giant tree, not a tree house, but a giant tree on the house. That kind of damage has substantially compromised the entire structure of that house. I mean, that is beyond what a load-bearing wall should be able to handle. So we have issues running throughout the house. And there it is just from a different angle. And with that tree not being secured, I mean, there are issues there even. And that's with us trying to remove some of that debris. And you can see where the snow fencing's been put up to try and keep people out of the property. If you can scroll down, there's the next picture is a great example of weeds, but what you can also see here is the lean in that wall showing how it's bowing out, and that's from the impact of the tree and how it's compromised the structure of the house. That's all that staff has, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anyone representing the property owner, the Silmans?
Mr. Mayor, if I may say something, this one here is really high on my list. It's right down probably about 3 blocks from where I live at, across from Cottonwood School. I've gone past that structure probably a half a dozen times and have seen kids playing in this structure. A snow fence ain't going to keep nobody out. I mean, it's a good idea, but I have noticed here lately somebody has removed some of the windows out of the house now, so they are somebody's stealing parts off of the house because the windows are going off one side of it. So I really would like to see something as soon as possible happen to this structure here, because it's very, very dangerous, and especially school's getting ready to ramp up here in another month, and the playground right across the street, balls bounce across the fence over into it. Kids are going to be going back and forth, and it's just not a good deal.
Other comments? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this item? I'll close the public hearing and bring it up here for action. Any further comments, or is there someone who would like to make a motion on 245 Baker?
And again, I think we keep the dates the same. I think as we stated before, the August 1 date allows us to move on this. So, Mayor Ryan, I move we approve resolution number 18-7573, finding that the structure at 245 Baker is an unsafe and dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing the date of August 1st, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15th, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. We'll move on to 540 West Iron, Resolution 1875-74, and open the public hearing.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a multifamily dwelling. Once it was a single-family dwelling, but has since been separated into additional units. It's located at 540 West Iron. The property was placarded on June 12th, 2018. Salina County records show delinquent taxes for 2016 and 2017 is due, but not delinquent. The background on this property is on October 21st, 2016, a violation notice was sent for a broken window on the property, and there were squatters living in the back apartment. The property owner did not respond to the city, boarded up these windows. The housing assessment form was mailed out to the property owner on February 28th of 2017 with a deadline to make repairs by August 29th, 2017. On February 29th, 2018, a dangerous structures inspection was performed with the property owner notified on May 16th, 2018. The property owner contacted our office and did schedule, as requested in the notice, an interior inspection, which was completed on June 18th, 2018. Since then, though, we did receive notice from Mr. Boer this morning that he did work on the stairs this weekend, but additional work is going to require that he pull permits and that he use licensed contractors to do those. When he met with staff on Friday, he came in to get his packet and talked additionally with staff about what he could or couldn't do, and this replacing of the front stairs, and we'll see some of the other major issues, is the only thing he could do without having to pull a permit, and he could do himself. But the rest of the work will take significant professionals to do the work. If we can scroll down to the pictures, Rick, thank you. So this is the front part of the property. Here you can see this is beyond just paint. This is actually dilapidated siding that is starting to let in the elements. There's severe deterioration along many of these points. If you can scroll down one more. One of the things that's hard to move beyond, and it is more than just an aesthetic issue, is foundational issues. So that's a level being held straight, and that's the foundational wall. There's a good 3-inch gap for that foundation leaning. And for such a large house, that's a big deal. And that's on the east side of the house is being pushed significantly. A 2-foot level shows it being, that is plumb 3 inches within that 2 feet. And the top of the foundation at the sill is at ground level too. And I think we have some other pictures that show that. The siding and soffits have significant holes and deterioration, are letting in moisture. Water damage to structural membranes has occurred throughout the interior of the structure. The roof is severely dilapidated with several holes and leaks present. And there are 4 levels of living space included in the basement. And the stairs to all these levels have significant damage, including the front entrance steps. We have many windows that have been boarded up and not replaced. These are the front stairs that the owner indicated fixing. This is what happens when the elements are getting inside the house. This is the water, animals, and a variety of other issues that are occurring, and this is what it's doing to the interior. Even those places that still have windows, the quality of those windows, the integrity of the seals on those are questionable, and that's what we've got on the inside. And one of the things that the building inspector, a building official wanted to note is these are damages to support beams and structural integrity issues as well. So beyond the foundation, when the elements are getting in there and it's ruining those foundational timbers, we've got more structural issues throughout the house. That's everything I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Or would the Boohers or any of the other interested parties like to address this?
I'm Mark Booyer. I'd like to preface by saying there was no legal and financial problems. Aside from that, I have begun trying to work on it. I spent the last year working on another property in tandem with building services, and I had a meeting with Sean and Jerry last Wednesday, and they outlined the work that needed to be done to me, and that was roof, foundation, and front steps, and that it would remove it from the dangerous structures list. Now, apparently, is that true or not true?
So so you can get it removed from the dangerous structures list, but that doesn't alleviate all the violations.
Correct, it does not.
So it becomes safe enough to stand and not have to be immediately demolished, but there are other violations, though, that would need to be addressed.
And I would also say that Jerry had commented to me and to Sean that the structure of the building appeared to be fine, that it needed all of the other things, the windows, the siding, the roof, and so on, which I intend to do or begin work on. I already have. I would also like to say I'm one guy, I am a licensed contractor, but I don't have the money to hire somebody. So the work is going to have to be done by me, or as I am doing, actively pursuing someone to purchase it that can and will do it. At this point, all I can say is my intent is to repair the place. If I can't find someone to purchase it and take over, I don't think I can have it finished by October 15th. But I would certainly be happy to make every effort and come back and show my intent, or get to a place where I can get at least somewhat of an extension if necessary. And that's really all.
Mr. Booyer, how recently has someone been living in there?
Oh, I couldn't say, because I've sold it on contract twice and I got it back the last time, and with some of this already occurring, I don't know when the last time someone lived in it was. No one's lived in it since I received it back from the last person I sold it to, and that's 5 years.
And I think this came up before, but if the property were to be sold during this period of time between now and October 15th, the same time restrictions apply to the new owner? And then this would have to be disclosed at the time the property was being sold?
I think it can be, although you'd have discretion, is my understanding as well, so it may depend on what would happen. When you look at this, though, and you look at first of all, the foundation is going to be a pretty expensive fix.
Yes.
And then when we look at the siding from the property maintenance code perspective, and it appears probably most, if not all, the siding is going to be fairly expensive. The roof is going to be pretty expensive, too. It's a tall building with pretty steep angles. That adds to it as well. I don't know if there's been any estimated cost if it were contracted out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least $30,000, $40,000. I'm just speculating, but it's a pretty large repair job overall. It's going to take some time.
Do you think that's worth the effort, or
I do.
take your losses and
The actual structure itself is not that compromised. I mean, no one's going to have to go in and redo the framing. Now, I'm going to say it's going to be a renovation. You know, it's going to have to be gutted, gas, water, electrical, new windows.
I think the point, though, of one of the reasons staff brought this one to the body, and it's on the list, is because the amount of repairs are significant.
Yes.
And this is in no offense to Mr. Boer, but he's had the property for some time with the intent of fixing it up. And due to many life situations, it's understandable those things have occurred, but we're at a point where more immediate action needs to take place. Again, squatters and things like that in these types of properties, and the problem won't get better. And I mean, just to make it structurally sound, we're looking at a significant chunk of money before we even get into countertops and siding and those types of things.
So what does he have to show by October the 15th to say, I'm working on it, I've done this, I need an extension?
Well, by October 15th, we need to do the tasks that are necessary to get it off the dangerous structures list. That's fixing the foundation, that's repairing all the major holes and stuff within the siding, securing, probably replacing several windows, and a variety of other things.
Now, when I talked to Sean, he said the boarded up windows really had nothing to do with the dangerous structures. Is that not true?
It can, though, if we have structural issues. And our staff isn't, licensed to be civil engineers on some of these things, but there are signs that talk about...
Well, these are the people I'm talking to try to take care of this, and I need to know if what they're telling me is correct, because if it's not, I need to do something different.
Yes, and even if it's not what got you off the dangerous structures list, you have to repair the windows in the long run.
Yeah, I do,
So,
yes.
And if it's letting in water, you're letting in the elements, and that is affecting the structural integrity of the home.
Yes, it is.
So whether you're going to
No, I
board them
get it
up,
there.
replace those windows.
I just want to make sure I know which direction I have to take. And
Yeah, and you have that all in writing in your violation notice that you received of what it takes to get off dangerous structures list. And we are happy to meet with you after this and continue to go through that.
That would be great, yeah.
And you did mention earlier that there is a process for if we do get to October 15th and Mr. Boer says, I've made significant progress, I need longer, and staff says, not enough progress yet. I mean, there's a hearing process where it would bring it back to us for a determination, correct?
Yes, the property owner can request a hearing in front of the body. It's not a staff recommendation kind of thing necessarily. It's the applicant or the citizen coming before you. And I would just, again, it has to be, we're focused on what makes it safe. And by October 1st or October 15th, that would be a significant amount of work. So it would be up to the body to decide if that was enough work to continue that, or it kind of puts you back in the boat that you're in right now.
Just one other question. What would you anticipate being able to commence or get started by August the 1st?
Well, this week I'm hoping to pull permits to start on the roof. I got to put a handrail on the steps, but after that, they're complete. My intent next was the roof and then the siding, and then the foundation because it's the most expensive.
And with the permit being pulled for the roof, is there a maximum time limit during which that work would have to commence?
No, the permit doesn't work like that. I mean, the actions that Mr. Brewer is taking, would be recognized as towards commencement of, dealing with the dangerous structures violations.
But if he obtained the permit, but nothing happened for 6 months?
Well, if he obtained the permit, but he's still under the dangerous structures resolution, he would need to be completed by October 15th. So he would have, pulling his permit next week would have gotten him commenced, but he won't, if he's not complete by the 15th, he's not complete by the 15th.
It doesn't help him as far as October.
Well, Commissioners, again, back to the phrase diligent prosecution, that's an ongoing where you're making a headway to some kind of predictable point and making reasonable progress. My thought is that if you, in this particular case, certainly you can offer the same time frame you have for the other structures. I don't know that you have a reasonable expectation for it to be done in that time frame, but if at some point, possibly halfway through the process, staff will be looking at it, don't feel like the significant progress has been made, we can bring that back to you with a report, so at least you can be aware. I think that's better than waiting until whatever the Monday is, right after October 15th, and saying, well, it's not done, what do you want to do now? I think it'd be better to report about halfway through the timeline and see reasonably where's it at. Because I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to crawl on that roof, and so that's me. I crawl on my own house roof, but not this one's a little different, and it's a little steeper, and the foundation work. You have quite a bit of work that is either difficult to get to or will need certain expertise, which you may very well have, but is difficult work. Is what I'm saying. It's going to take some time and some resources, even if it's done, by Mr. Brewer.
And maybe to protect yourself. And again, I'm no builder, but your building's only as good as your foundation. And I think if I was you need to look at the cost associated with that, with the basement and the foundation. I think that's where you're going to find your dollars. And I'd hate to see you throw money on a roof and siding and then find out you could not continue with the foundation. So that's just some guidance, because that's one of the things as a commissioner I'm going to be looking at, because the integrity of that building is going to lie with the foundation. So
I agree. Absolutely.
So that's just the way I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to be looking at that pretty heavily.
Other questions? Any other comments, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
The key word is diligence, so embrace that. Anybody else from the public that would like to comment on this item? We'll close the public hearing and bring it back up to the commission for action. Is there a motion on this item or further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 18-7574, finding that the structure at 540 West Iron is unsafe or dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st, 2018, within the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15th, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owner fails to comply.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. We'll move on to 706 West Iron. It's a resolution 187575. We'll open the public hearing. Staff report.
Okay, this property is located at 706 West Iron Street. It's a single-family dwelling. It is currently vacant, and the property was placarded on June 12th, 2018. Taxes are current. Background on this property: inspectors performed an inspection specific to the criteria of 31502. The property owner was sent a violation notice May 16th, 2018, An activity or changes since the resolution date, none from the property owner, and the results were reported in the public hearing. Conclusions, if you can scroll down to the first picture, that's perfect, Rick, thanks. So here you can see the foundation is failing and shifting in multiple areas around the house. That's a 4-inch shift out in front of the house and a 2-inch out on the east side. The sill plates are not touching the foundation walls in several areas. So you can see here, if you can scroll to that next one. Here's another example of the shift in the foundation. It looks like this problem has been occurring for quite some time, but either between purchases or, you know, in order to, I think maybe what they thought was fix this, it looks like they slapped some mortar on the outside, but the problem has been there for some time. Yeah, if you can keep scrolling, Rick, thank you. So the roof is sagging and showing its failing rafters. So you can see here there's an actual dip in the roof. And so the sagging is noted here, and then there's the rafter is starting to actually pull away here. And if you can scroll down, there's some very, very improper wiring here. This is actually the whole room's circuits run off of this cord cap. That's not legal. So, and then this is the missing panel cover. This should actually be inside of here. And then this is all exposed Rumex that should not be exposed, first of all. And then this is just another example here of the improper foundation repairs. So, I mean, that's what we've been showing you in foundational issues is what we can see. But then as we started to pick this up, there's obviously some more issues throughout this. But you shouldn't be able to see really any of this wiring, and it should be enclosed. And that's for very important safety issues. That's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. This property is owned by Robert Kaiser. Is Mr. Kaiser here? Does he want to discuss the property?
Well, after reviewing some of these pictures, I feel pretty good, but when I received this notice, I've pretty well put me down on my knees. And I have a college education, but some of the people that have lived in my property are smarter than I am. Some of the things that I bought this about 10 years ago from a friend of mine, and it had absolutely no paint. And I offered to paint it twice for him for nothing, and I did. And then he sold it to me. He told me I shouldn't buy it, whatever. But it has the old limestone, and it goes down about 5 foot on most of the house. And I, at that time, had a permit to, it had a side porch that was demolished terribly. And I got a permit, and I used to work on rental property of mostly my own. And I didn't do everything, but I removed his dilapidated porch, and where this, it's actually a limestone that has been mortared. It didn't hold in. That is actually on the east side of the house. It's not really the west side. That is pretty close to where the porch was. And anyway, I worked on mortaring, did the best I could from what I learned from my dad years ago, and I did have a permit at that time. I have tried to abide by about anything that the city has asked me to do. I put $1,100 into a sidewalk for the cracks out, and that was just, I actually dug most of everything and threw in the sand, and actually had it ready for the people to deliver the cement. The city came out and inspected it, and yada yada. So as far as the wiring, most of this wiring was pretty well done. The missing panel cover, you know, when you have renters, it's unbelievable what they'll mess up. And I I didn't do all this wiring. Somebody evidently approved it many, many years ago, and I did put the little panel back in because I don't even know what the one little box is, which you're not looking at it. You're looking at the stone that she was talking about. But anyway, it only has about 5 foot of foundation, except on the west side. Sometime or another, it has had cement blocks put down all the way. And I knew that the limestone crumbled pretty bad. As far as the roofing, I am not, my eyesight is not that great. I couldn't see it sagging that badly, but I've already contacted a contractor. I tried to contact Earl Kinderconnect, and he said he was busy and call him back every day, whatever, to remind him. Well, I went out to the YMCA and contacted the superintendent, I can't remember his name, of Buzz Boom and Raw, and they suggested I contact Jerry Deal. And I contacted Jerry Deal. I've talked to Sean Culture and Ian somebody, whatever, that is the same type of job. And they went and inspected it, and it was my understanding it be in the neighborhood of $6,500 to haul dirt in, do some block work on the foundation, and yada yada. Now, that's what I was told by Jerry. Now, I have called at least 6 times to see if he will get me an estimate, and I really have just checked on the foundation because the gentleman here said the foundation is one of the most important parts, and I agree. To me, it was not that much. It is an unsafe structure to a degree because the retaining walls inside had, the dirt has settled in, and actually it's pretty well held up by the structural beams or whatever inside. But I wasn't even aware of a lot of these. I've got more pictures today of things that was wrong. I was told about the roof, and I thought, well, the foundation, I need to figure out if I can get it done. But I have contacted for the last, and I know these contractors are busy. And I don't know Jerry that well. I did know a friend of his that was a friend of mine, but I've been trying to get things done, and it's put me down on my knees to say, well, what can I do? I got to have patience. I can't do it myself, and but at the same time, I have more specific information today than I've really had before. I saw pictures of the panel, and I have had renters. Like I say, they're smarter than I am. I bought the property thinking I could help the poor, and they have helped themselves. I didn't have to help them. The individual that turned me in for an unsafe structure lived there about 2.5 months and didn't pay me a dime. That was my fault. I kept asking for it, and I finally had to have the sheriff remove them, and they would have stayed there forever. It wasn't that unsafe that they couldn't live there, since they lived upstairs, not down in the basement. But I've also had the gas paid about $1,100 or so to City Plumbing, I think. They came out, and the people did not turn the gas on, renters, and I did not know that they hadn't, and I guess I should call and make sure they did turn it on. And I don't know, where does your responsibility as a homeowner start, begin, whatever, because they went too long, so I had to have it inspected, and they put new Romex wiring, had the license, I don't know for sure who came out, but people mess with your house. I've replaced the carpet many a time, and finally have pretty well charged plenty for pets, so that if I have to replace it again, and I'm not going to do it myself again because I've gotten to the age where I'm pretty good at not doing anything now. So that's pretty well what I've tried to cooperate with the city whenever they had a problem. And after watching other people's structures, I don't like to see mine go downhill like it has, but I've had really good windows and things, and I've had carpet replaced. I've let them paint some, I've painted some, and in fact, I was thinking about painting it again before all this came about. Now it's been too hot anyway, but anyway, I use that for an excuse. That's about all, whatever.
Well, Mr. Kaiser, it sounds like then that you'd like to move forward with correcting the problems and that you've commenced trying to do
Well,
those
I'd like
things.
to do that or just turn it over to the city. They can have the house. I don't like this kind of problem. I have been a miser, rhymes with Kaiser actually. I've been a miser all my life, and I have saved, scrimped, and my kids know how I am. And when I had some money, I tried to pay off mortgages on the house I live in, or I've got a rental property on North Penn that I have sold on contract. I hope he doesn't ever give it back to me, but it's been going on for quite a while. And I just, I don't need the problem. I've had many, many operations, and I just feel great that I can do what I do. And I don't do it very well or very fast, but I'm just, I don't need this kind of problem. And I have no idea what it might cost to demolish it, but I know it's probably way more than what I want to pay or borrow. And anyway, my kids are smarter than me too, because they kept telling me, Dad, get that sold, get that sold. And I finally put a sign up to try to sell it, and then I was hit with kicking this fellow out and his girlfriend, and he told me he was going to have it condemned. He did absolutely nothing. In fact, a window was broke, and it still is. He fixed that with cardboard. He put a little cardboard and gray tape on where the window was. And I told him, if you take it off, measure it, I'll go get the glass. I can do that myself. But, he was one of those that was on disability, but he could do it all. And he was smart enough to know the foundation was coming away from the plate or whatever. That's more than whatever I've understood. I don't feel it was that unsafe a house, but there are the things that are out of code, so to speak. And in the old days, we took rock and threw whatever, and they don't want that done nowadays. Old cement. And I've done some of it myself anyway, but that's the way we did it in the old days. And I'm not young. I've had many, many surgeries.
Mr. Skull, it's an option for Mr. Kaiser to just pass it to the city and incur the costs of the demolition.
Yeah, if they could tell me how much it was run, it's like I can't even get a contractor to tell me, so I kind of wondered, how am I going to get the city people to tell me when I suppose they'd have to get a contractor, even though they know a lot of things.
We don't estimate, demo at this point. I mean, I don't know if you can just give it to the city. I'm looking at Greg. I mean, essentially you could pass this, it's going to run its course, and at the end, on October 15th, if nothing was taken, we would then move forward with demoing it. The cost would be assessed, and it would either be paid or go on to the taxes. I'm not sure about the process if, at this point, you're saying you just want to demo it right now?
I don't know, because I don't know how much it would cost. I'd like, if it wasn't that much, I don't know what I'm going to run into. I got to get one thing fixed first, and I think the foundation is the most important part of the problem. Now, like I said today, I've received the most information that I've ever received. I heard that there was electrical problems, and that all those wires going here and there. One of those wires went to the furnace when I had them do the inspection, and they put all new Romex here and there, they didn't do anything on that part. As far as I know, I had to use some situation there, as far as in the wintertime, if I didn't have that bulb down there without the light, or the bulb wasn't in it, if I didn't have that on, and there was a switch upstairs, if you switched that off, it would shut off the furnace. Then if you flipped it back on, it might, as long as there's that other wiring down there. I did not do all that wiring. I have done wiring, but I didn't do, I've had so many renters in there that most of them are experts. I'm not. But, if it was like, actually they came out and tried to increase my rate of how much I had to pay on that house, and I fought that as far as county, city, whatever you call it. And I won. They went back to, I think they was going to tax me for $45,000. And I told them it's not even close to that. It might be close to 30, 35 maybe.
We would be happy to work with Mr. Kaiser if he were to choose a contractor, to meet with he and his contractor to talk about how this got resolved and what his bids look like and things like that. We try really hard not to get into somebody's bidding process for a variety of reasons, but once they have a chosen contractor, we're happy to meet with them and talk about how to resolve that. If Mr. Kaiser were to get two different contractors, one to fix the house and looking at a demo contractor, we'd be happy to meet with both of them and have that discussion so that he had kind of both of those to make choices. I think if he were doing that actively and the body passed the resolution as it is right now, that would be considered commencing. And if we were, halfway through that process, into September, towards the end of the month, and saw light at the end of the tunnel, or that Mr. Kaiser had made a choice on what he was doing, we could come back to the body with, either the necessary additional time that he needs, or he would have made a decision to demolish.
See, I would have tried to get the deal where I saw Earl Kinder Connect, which I worked with him years ago at Exide. I know him. I don't know what kind of work he does, but I didn't feel like it was, I could get this guy and this guy and this guy, and then try to get him to say, okay, well, if you don't do it, this other guy's going to do it for me, and maybe cheaper, yada, yada, yada. I just finally was told Jerry Deal, and I've heard good things about him, and I know they're all busy. I just know that I can't get them to do it, and it's been probably a couple months. But
Mr. Kaiser, you have some choices to make, and it looks like staff is willing to help you work with some of those choices, but basically you can either repair the house or you can look to have it demolished. That's the basic decision you're going to have to make. And it really falls to you, and I think it's to your advantage to work through that scenario and decide who you would like to do the work and seek the bids. Rather than let it fall on the city. So,
well, I pretty well got, I don't know, was Ian or Sean, whether you went out with, did you ever go out to my place with Jerry?
No, both
of them did?
Sean and Ian, I'm aware, are aware and have been out to the property.
With Jerry?
Possibly, I'm not sure about that.
One of them went out with Jerry, so I mean, it's one of those where I thought, do I have to get these guys together, which I did. Nobody acts on nothing. And I thought, well, it's my job to get them together and get something going. But so far, I don't have anything going except a headache.
Well, you're trying, and I'll look to that as commencement, and there's a completion or a decision point by October 15th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to hit them up again. The last message, I know it was the 6th time, and I don't like to bug anybody that much, but I need to, I'm losing out on rent possibly, although, if everybody paid me from what they left me owing, I wouldn't have any problem fixing this up whatsoever. But I've been scammed a lot, and I'm probably not done yet. All right.
Anyone else from the public like to comment on this resolution? We'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here for action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve resolution number 18-7575, finding the structure at 706 West Iron to be repaired or removed, and the premises made safe and secure, fixing date of August the 1st. Commencement date within the repair and removal shall commence, and the date of October 15th, which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition and repair of the owners if the owner failed to comply.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. We'll move to 439 South Phillips, Resolution 1875-76. Open the public hearing and hear from staff.
Okay, this property is 439 South Phillips. It is a single-family dwelling. There are no accessory detached structures. It is vacant, and the property was posted June 12th, 2018. Taxes are current on this property. Let's see. A violation notice was sent on April of 2016, with 2 extensions being granted in October of 2016 and September of 2017. The house has remained vacant since May of 2016, with property owner stating that he plans to complete repairs. If you could scroll down, Rick. And I'm going to go through the conclusions as we look at the pictures. So the north wall is leaning approximately 3 inches on the outside with noticeable bow on the inside, and then the driveway butting up to the wall on the north side has settled towards the house, creating a funnel-like effect for the water to stand and drain into the basement through the cracks in the walls. So here's where the lake forms, and because of this issue here in the basement, the water's just spilling in. The building official said he was literally there while it was raining, and it was like a waterfall dumping into the basement. And you can see here how it's affecting the inside of that wall. You've got the bowing here, and mind you, if we're talking a waterfall of water coming through here, we have electrical strung all through here. This is a rental, so we have safety issues for sure. The south wall is leaning about 4 inches on the outside, and a large bow of 4 to 5 inches on the inside is affecting plumbing and piping on that wall. There's a depression as well as upheaval on the floor on the south side of the basement. This would be the upheaval. And under here is just a giant hole, and the building official was saying it goes further down that way. The roof is in need of a complete tear-off and replacement. At least 5 layers of asphalt shingles exist, and there is a hole in the southwest corner that is leaking into the structure. So there is the hole that's in the roof. And if you can just scroll up one more, Rick, to the power issues. This is just an example of lighting issues, and these are hanging from the basement in the ceiling, again, where we have the water pouring in. So those are open wiretaps. And there's no power to 2 of the rooms on the east side of the house, and there are numerous electrical connections in the basement that are not enclosed in a junction box. That is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Questions for staff? Is there anyone here to represent Dennis Collier? There not being anyone. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this item?
I have one small question.
Come on up to the podium, sir. If you'd
Pat Hoskins, it's probably maybe more legal on your pictures there. I live across the street from Dennis's Palace here. And my good neighbor for 40 years has that, we used to call them shared driveways. And so she has a garage, she uses it, but what happens with the, that driveway already tilting? Where's the liabilities? Fall in all this? Any guesses?
I'm not prepared to speak to that.
She had her home steel piped years ago, her foundation wall, but this thing has become such a hazard that once they start tearing that down, I didn't just know if there's a liability or somebody stuck one way or another, just looking for information.
I wouldn't know. I'd look to Greg as far as that
Yeah,
issue.
that's why
Sorry,
I
Greg.
came on up, because you were here.
I would think the liability would fall to the property owner.
Or, well, what I say, it's a gray area.
Mr. Collier as the owner of the property that's causing the problem. We'll let Greg study it.
Well, I don't know that anyone would probably particularly benefit from me opining on ultimate liability issues, but I do think you do have the photograph of the shared drive situation, and I think that is certainly a factor that you can take into consideration as you look at the need for remedying the situation with that particular structure.
The demo contractor fall into the liability hole?
Those are issues that we would address before that. But I guess one of the things that I noticed when looking at the shared driveway issues, the driveway is one thing, but if the foundation was structurally sound and appropriate, you wouldn't have the water, whether it was standing there or not, just kind of dumping down the side of it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's why I made a point. 20 years ago, Camp came in and fixed the neighbors. I've been in this basement. I've been in the southwest corner, which y'all kind of missed, where they put the clothesline pole was this close to the foundation 60, 70 years ago, so the water ran down, and that's where your floor buckled up. So I'm just saying, or make a note for the demo, because obviously Denny's going to let it be demoed. He hasn't touched it in 2 years. That it's a situation that we didn't know. We've been kicking it around for generations. Thank you, that's all I had, just bring it up.
Thank you for the additional information. Anyone else wish to comment on this item? We'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here for action. Further discussion, commissioners, or
Just
is there
one
action?
question. What were the violations in April 2016? Or were they for similar structural problems?
yes, I don't have those in front of me, but violations were sent. A lot of times if there's more than one thing, we've placed those out there, and then we can give extensions internally. A lot of times we'll get a call, hey, I just need another 30 days, or, my contractor didn't show up, can we have another 60 days, those kinds of things. So it looks like we granted a couple of those. I don't know what the exact violations are. I could pull those for you, but I have a feeling they're along these same lines, because these look like issues that have been happening for a while. And renters, and the fact that we stopped renting it 2 years, and that coincides with these violations, a lot of times is renters call and are like, help us be known about some of these issues.
So it would imply that he has no intention of fixing this up.
No comment.
His failure to appear would seem to indicate.
All right. Ready for an action?
Sure.
Mayor Ryan, I move approval of resolution number 18-7576, finding that the structure at 439 South Phillips is unsafe and dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15, 2018, within which the repair removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0. Item 4, the item for the address of 425 Russell, Resolution 1875-77. Open the public hearing. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a single-family dwelling located at 425 Russell. There are no detached accessory buildings on the property, and it is currently vacant. Taxes and other assessments owed are current. Background, this property owner has been notified on 2 separate occasions with violation notices, the first in September of 2016 and the second in May of 2018. A permit to repair the foundation was applied for in June of 2018, but was returned to the applicant for further information needed. The permit application status remains pending reply from the applicant. As of the date of this report, no reply has been received by the city. This one is worth seeing the pictures on. So we're going to start off kind of easy. So this is the Bode Foundation wall near the front porch. So you can see here, the wall is leaning actually 10 to 12 inches. It's kind of hard in the overhead, but in the picture you can actually see there's a significant dark shadow here and a gap between that cement front porch area and the wall. You can keep scrolling, Rick. And here is, again, this lighting, but you can see in the picture, here's the wall, straight line, and then we have this serious lean, again, a good 10 inches between here's the meter and valves. You can see there's a major gap here. That's foundation for the rear of the house. If you want to keep scrolling, Rick. We have stress fractures from this being so greatly off its foundation. Keep scrolling. Again, more stress cracks. And here's what's going on the inside. So clearly you can start to see where the wall is literally pulling away from the house. And they are aware that this is an issue, clearly, as they've put in stabilizers. Yeah, I've never quite seen anything quite like that. So that's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is a property deeded to Steve and Tiffany Surham. Are they present and would like to address this? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this item? We'll bring it back up to the commission for deliberation, close the public hearing. Any further discussion, commissioners, or do you want to take action?
It appears they've contacted the deals. What are we missing that they were not given approval for the basement? Do you have any information on that at all?
Who might?
They just needed more information.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You can't hide from the camera, Sue.
Sorry, I was trying. They needed more information, more details about the repair itself. The application was very generic. I believe it might have just said foundation repair, and there was just more questions that needed to be answered about what was going to be involved in that. And so our plans examiner kicked a letter back to them asking them for that information, and we haven't heard anything yet.
As far as the rest of the structure, because what we see here is obviously the basement walls, is the rest of the structure fairly decent? I guess that's
From where I'm aware, we have no other violation issues outside of this.
Okay.
What I think part of our questions, though, is we kind of go on this kind of surface level observation, right? But with something like this going on, my question would be what else is going on in the house? Because when you start having those kinds of shifts, I start to wonder about plumbing, wiring, and those kinds of things that are being affected by the stress to that. Do I think it's not savable? No, but there's a question about what more is going on there.
So we haven't done an interior inspection on this particular...
We've done a walkthrough, but I mean, some of those things versus some of the other houses where like literally the walls are falling in and we can look in and see wiring
or the plumbing.
We're not seeing that in here, but I mean, if you've ever worked with anybody who's looking at, load-bearing walls and things like that, when those are off, you start looking at everything else in the house. So It's not a, I mean, some of these you look at and it's hard to imagine what full repair looks like. This is definitely, there's doable there.
But we can presume they have received notice, and their banks as well. So their lack of presence here, I would presume they're compliant with the action we're going to take, and they have their own decisions to make. Any more discussion, or is there motion?
Mayor Ryan, I move we approve resolution number 18-7577, finding that the structure at 425 Russell is unsafe or dangerous, directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises made safe and secure, fixing a date of August 1st, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall commence, and a date of October 15th, 2018, within which the repair or removal shall be completed, and authorizing staff to proceed with the demolition or repair if the owners fail to comply.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes 5-0.
And can I ask a question now that we're through all this? As far as being, if we go in and fix a structure or we demolish it, I'm taking it that we put that expense on the tax rolls?
Yeah, we budget, in our budget, we have a certain demo budget that we budget every year for abating these types of properties.
But what I'm saying is to try to recoup our costs.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
guessing that at some point, these end up going to tax foreclosure, sale, or something at some point, or somebody comes in and tries to purchase the property.
The amount is put on, if it's not paid in those 30 days, like I mentioned earlier, it then is assessed to the property through the taxes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. That's the approval of the minutes for July 9th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Administration, 7.1.
Item 7.1, second reading ordinance number 18-10949, changing the zoning district classification from R1, single-family residential, to C5, service commercial, on property addressed as 1038 Johnstown Avenue.
This is a second reading. I believe that we've received no further correspondence since first reading. Any public comment on this item? Is there, I'll bring it to the commission here for action. Is there a motion to approve this on second reading? Or we just need a roll call?
Yeah, Mayor Ryan, I move we approve ordinance number 18-10949 on second reading.
Second.
We'll have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Hodges?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoppick?
Aye.
Mayor Ryan?
Aye. That item passes 5-0. Development business, we have none. Other business?
Mr. Mayor, I just got one item. I'd like to thank the staff for a great first day opening of the recycling center. It was fantastic. It was exciting. There was a lot of people was really excited to see it, and to see over 7 tons of stuff taken in on the first day was a testament that that's what the city needed. So, Jim, I'd like to thank you and your staff for a great job done on that. One thing I do have a problem with, though, is, we don't take plastic grocery sacks. And I do know that Target does take the plastic bags, but if people do not take them to Target, they end up in the trash can, they end up at the landfill. So I'd like to have the staff take a look and report back about maybe a ban on grocery sacks from grocery stores, department stores, convenience stores, retail stores, and see what it would take for us to take a look at doing something about this.
I'd agree.
Same. And I do just want to point out one thing. I think that Dillon's also does accept those plastic sacks, because I have lots of them in my car that I then take back in on my trip to Dillon. So in addition to Target, there is Dillon's is a good place for recycling the plastic bags and the lightweight plastic that we can't handle in our.
We got other
recycling center.
communities that's looked at this, so we got other communities that's actually passed this, so I think that's something I'd like to see us look at.
You have consensus to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think
Similar.
the folks at the guys at the landfill like that as well, because those things blow all over. They're hard to keep track of.
You know, I was really surprised the other day. I think, I don't know if it was Jim that told me, but he said that the staff out there has spent like 180 hours of clearing the fences off of plastic sacks that blow against the fence. I mean, you know, just the savings on man hours could be a big deal too.
In a similar vein, I notice our recycling center does not accept shredded paper. And when I look at the volume of material still waiting to be recycled in my garage, 90% of it is shredded paper. Is there a way to see what the resources in town are, what resources we currently have for disposing of this? I've been told sometimes banks will have days where they either take documents and shred them. I don't know where they actually take the paper that's already been shredded. But it's a high volume, albeit lightweight, but it's takes up a lot of space, and that's.
Yeah, that's a good question. I need to ask Jim. I presume then that the recycling facility that we take our recyclables to does not accept shredded paper, and that's the issue, isn't it?
That's correct. The sorting equipment that they utilize, the small fine paper actually plugs it up and makes it malfunction. So they do take paper, you know, all kinds of paper, sheets and colored paper, newspaper, wrapping paper, but they don't take shredded paper.
Okay, now, just as an example, I've not been to the facility in Abilene, but it does accept shredded paper. Of course, it also accepts the material already or still separated, not combined like we do. I don't know if there are any options where we could have a separate shredded paper collection, and I don't know what would be done with it or where it would go, but I'm just asking out of ignorance now, because it's something that's very easy to recycle if you can get it to the folks who would use it.
We have the idea where Abilene takes their stuff?
I do not. We did not look into a sorting or a sorting facility that to replace the recycling effort here in town with something easy and quicker and efficient. We really just looked at single stream. We can investigate what our options would be as far as collection and a place to take it, but there again, that would be another commitment by the city if we did something.
Right, 'cause otherwise it ends up in large plastic bags in the trash can. Obviously, businesses have their commercial recyclers, but I think a lot of people at home shred, credit card receipts or other important documents, and right now it's just waste that's sitting there ready for the trash can if we don't have a place to take it.
Yeah, we can look at it and see what options are out there. Bring it back at some point for you.
And it might be a time to employ a little bit of social media, just because I know that the citizens that comprise the Facebook group Rallying for Recycling, they have posted in the past, you know, before we had our recycling facility, where you could take different things, which is how I became aware of Target accepting so many different things. So if anybody from Rallying for Recycling is listening now, and you have ideas, please don't hesitate to share them. So,
thank you.
Any other business?
I just had one quick item. First of all, I wanted to thank city staff for providing a copy of the shared vision statement and strategic plan that we adopt every year. I mentioned this last week about whether or not there was any interest in reviewing that in light of the leadership transition that we're going to be having in the next few weeks, taking a look at that and seeing where we are on some of our tasks for the year. So I did take the liberty of pulling out the ones that look like they were clearly defined to be completed in this year, and I know that we can't have communications back and forth, but I will be sharing this just as a factual issue, what I would like to see updates on prior to Mr. Gage's departure. There's not that many, but I think that if we have an idea where we stand on some of these things on our to-do list, it'll certainly help us keep that momentum moving forward. And if it prompts anything in anyone else, they can certainly reach out to city staff to add to that.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Is that for me?
I think it is.
We got some markings?